Hey y'all, welcome back to Money Mondays. Today we're going to try to solve the age-old question. Should you save for retirement or pay off debt? Stay tuned to see if we solve this once and for all. Whether you are just starting out on your financial education journey or you are a seasoned veteran, I'm sure that you have come across more than one person in the financial education space who can't seem to agree whether or not you should focus on paying off all of your debt first before saving, or to go ahead and focus on saving for retirement first and put everything else aside. I decided to crunch my own numbers to see if there really was one particular direction that people should go that's going to benefit them the best. And I think you'll be pretty surprised at my results. For the purposes of my experiment, I took to the interwebs to see what the average American was dealing with. And I found out that as of 2020, the average individual has $5,315 worth of credit card debt with an average interest rate of 16.63%, and the average individual has $32,731 of student loan debt with an average interest rate of 5.8%. For our example, let's assume that Amalia the American has a minimum credit card payment of $106 a month, which is 2% of her credit card balance. And let's also assume that she's on the standard repayment plan for her student loan, which means that she's going to pay off the loan in 10 years using a fixed monthly payment. So that would give her student loan a minimum monthly payment of $358. If you remember back to grade school when you did science experiments, then you may remember that you have to have a control group in order to compare all of your experiments to. In this example, our control is going to be that Amalia pays off her debt by only paying the minimum payments using the debt avalanche method. So that means that she's starting with a total debt of $38,046, and she has minimum monthly payment of $464. Using the debt avalanche method, which pays off the debt with the highest percentage rate first, then Amalia is going to have her debt paid off in 113 months, and she's going to pay a little over $14,000 in interest. Using this as our baseline, we're going to run 4 experiments. Each experiment will assume that Amalia has an extra $100 a month to apply towards either her debt or her retirement savings. We're also going to use 113 months as our time frame. In the first experiment, we'll take the $100 and invest it for retirement over the 113-month period. In the second experiment, we will take the $100 and apply it to the debt avalanche to pay the debt off faster. And then we'll take the entire minimum payment plus the $100 and then begin investing after Amalia is debt-free until 113 months is complete. In the third experiment, we're going to split the $100 50-50, and we'll apply $50 to the debt avalanche method, and we'll immediately begin to invest the other $50. And once all of the debt is paid off, we'll take the minimum payment plus that $50, and we'll add it to the $50 that's been invested until the 113 months is completed. And the fourth experiment, we're going to apply the $100 to the debt avalanche until the credit card or the highest interest balance is paid off. Then we will take the $100 and invest it and continue the debt avalanche with just the minimum payments. Let's see what Amalia ends up choosing as the best option. For option 1, Amalia is paying off her debt using just minimum payments and the debt avalanche method. During that 113-month period of time, she's going to take her extra $100 and solely invest it for retirement. She's going to invest in an index fund tracking the S&P 500 and averaging 9.8% per year. For all 4 of our experiments, we will assume that she's investing in this very same index fund. As you can see, at the end of 113 months, Amalia's investment has grown to a little over $18,400. She paid over $14,000 in interest, giving her a net gain of nearly $4,300. For option 2, Amalia takes her entire $100 and applies it to her debt avalanche plan. This gives her $564 a month towards her debt, with $206 first going towards the credit card. This allows her to pay off her debt in 84 months instead of 113 months, and she only pays $9,300 in interest as opposed to the $14,000 in interest. Once the debt is paid off, Amalia takes the entire $564 and invests it in the index fund tracking the S&P 500 for the remaining 29 months. At the end of the 29-month period, Amalia has over $18,300 saved for retirement. And when you subtract the $9,300 in interest, she has an overall net gain of a little over $9,000. With 2 experiments down, it's looking like Team Debt Payoff is in it to win it. By applying the $100 to her debt payoff plan first and investing after she was debt-free, Amalia ends up with nearly the same amount of money in retirement at the end of 113 months, but she's nearly doubled her net gain because she was able to save so much on interest payments. Let's look at options 3 and 4 to see if option 2 can maintain their lead. Looking at option 3, we are doing a 50-50 split, which means that Amalia is going to apply $50 towards her debt payoff plan, giving her a monthly payment of $514 a month. And from day 1, she's going to start investing the other $50 in her index fund. At the end of 96 months, Amalia is completely debt-free. At this time, she takes the $514 and adds it to her $50 investment and begins investing the full $564 for the remaining 17 months of the 113-month period. Using this method, Amalia ends up paying just under $11,000 in interest and ends up with a little over $18,500 in her retirement savings, giving her a net gain of about $7,500. As you can see, option 2 is still well ahead of the pack. Let's see if option 4 can do anything to stop them. Option 4 is a hybrid that I created. I wanted to pull together the best of both worlds, realizing that most credit card interest rates are much higher than the 9.8% return you can expect investing in index funds that are tracking the S&P 500. I wanted to see what would happen if we focused our energy on paying off high interest debt first, but then put the focus back to retirement savings and just allowed the low interest debt to get paid off in due time. So for option 4, what we're doing here, Amalia is going to take her $100 and apply it all to the debt avalanche. That's going to give her a $206 a month payment towards the credit card while she pays the minimum on the student loan. Once the credit card is paid off, she will take that extra $100 and start investing it in the stock market. She will take the $106 minimum credit card payment and roll it into the student loan debt, continuing the debt avalanche. So in this example, interestingly enough, Amalia still pays off her debt in 96 months, just like when she did the 50-50 split in option 3. However, she ends up paying less interest, right around $10,000 in interest instead of $11,000 in interest, because she did apply more money towards the credit card and was able to pay that off faster. By then applying the full $564 in the last 17 months, we see that Amalia has been able to save about $19,600. And when you subtract the $10,000 in interest, she has a net gain of over $9,600. And this option actually beats out option 2, which solely focused on paying off debt first before investing for retirement. So what does this all mean for you? Well, I obviously didn't run every possible scenario that exists under the sun, but I think that this is a good example to show you that what it really is going to boil down to is understanding interest rates and the power of compound interest. If you have high interest debt that is far exceeding what you can earn in the market by investing in index funds or stocks, then you want to get that debt paid off first and apply your extra money towards that debt. Once your high interest debt is paid off, however, then your advantage now lies in focusing your extra money on investing. If that is a little too complicated for you and you want to just keep it super simple, then as you can see from the math, you can focus your extra money towards your debt payoff plan first and then move all of your funds to retirement savings. Now, I'm hesitant in saying that, particularly because it's not very likely that most of us go through our life and only accrue debt in one period of our life. We're able to pay it off and that's it. We never have any more debt ever again. So the reality is we usually end up getting a chunk of debt, then we start working on paying it off, and then maybe something happens. An emergency could happen that causes us to accrue more debt, or maybe something good. Maybe we buy a home, or we buy a new car or something like that, but that is debt. If you are going to take on more debt during your debt payoff journey, then I don't advocate for a sole focus on debt payoff before retirement savings. And as you can see, the obvious reason for that is because if you are accruing debt throughout your life, then your debt payoff date is going to keep getting pushed down the road. And the further down your debt payoff date gets pushed, then the later you're going to start saving for retirement. And time is so important when it comes to your retirement savings, because you want to be able to take advantage of compounding your interest and those compounding periods. So unless you know that you're never going to accrue any more debt than you have right now, then go ahead and, I would recommend paying off high interest debt, then starting your retirement savings while paying minimums or doing an avalanche method with your low interest debt. Your next question now might be, well, what's considered low interest debt? Because it's not really as simple as just saying anything less than a 9.8% rate of return. So I pulled the student loan at the 5.8% interest, and I ran a few more experiments to see where the threshold might be that turns that student loan from low interest to high interest. So interestingly enough, 6% appeared to be the teetering point between low interest and high interest. And I'll show you what I mean here. So for this experiment, a couple of things are different. First, since we're only looking at the student loan, I'm only going to do options 1, 2, and 3. Without a mix of high and low interest debt, there's no way to do option 4. Secondly, because we're only paying off one debt in this example, the student loan had a debt payoff plan of 121 months at $358 a month minimum payment. So 121 months is our new time frame, and our interest payment here is going to be a little over $10,500. So you can see here that with only a student loan debt at 5.8% interest, the best option for Amalia here is option 1, applying all $100 to her retirement investing for the full 121 months while she pays minimum payments on her student loan. And the second best option was option 3, where she did a 50-50 split. Really interesting to see that focusing on debt payoff was the worst option here when her only debt was the low interest. Now, what if we increase the interest rate on the student loan? When I increased the student loan interest to 6%, what I found was that option 2 ended up being the best option. Applying all $100 to the debt payoff plan and then investing the full amount into retirement after becoming debt-free ends up being the best option. I was still a little curious if that was true all of the time, so I ran another experiment where I doubled the extra money that Amalia has from $100 to $200. And you can see here that with a $200 extra investment per month, that option 3 ends up being the best option for Amalia, where she does a 50-50 split, applying $100 to her student loan debt payoff and immediately investing the other $100 into her retirement plan. Once all the student loan is paid off, then the full amount gets invested for the remaining 121 months. Now, I wanted to know if having more money to apply towards your debt or towards investing would make a difference no matter how much higher the interest rate was. So I ran one more experiment where I increased the student loan interest rate from 6% to 6.2%, and then ran the numbers for $100 and for $200. And I'm just gonna show the $100 here, but basically once you get to 6.2% or above, then option 2 ends up being your best option, no matter how much extra money you are putting towards the debt, or at least for my experiment, whether it was $100 or $200. So once at 6.2% or above, focusing on paying off the debt ends up being your best bet. So it seems like 6% or between 5.8 and 6.2% is a little bit of a gray area that really depends on how much extra money you have to be able to throw towards your debt. Anything at 5.8% or below, investing all of your extra money to retirement was the best option. And anything at 6.2% or above, investing all of your extra money towards your debt and then focusing on retirement seemed to be the best option. So let's summarize. Remember, my findings are based on the experiments that I ran and may not necessarily be true for every possible scenario that exists, okay? So if you have a combination of high interest and low interest debt and you wanna compare it to investing in index funds that track the S&P 500, then what you're looking at is high interest debt is considered anything over 6.2% and above, and low interest debt is 5.8% and below, with the 5.8 to 6.2% being a gray area depending on how much extra money you have to apply towards your debt or investments, okay? So with that said, if you do have a combination of debt, then your best bet is to apply any extra money to pay off the high interest debt first, then apply that extra money to retirement savings while you debt avalanche the rest of your debt using minimum payments. And if you only have low interest debt, then you want to invest all of your extra money and pay your low interest debt using minimum payments. And if you have high interest debt, then you want to focus on solely paying off the debt first and then focusing on retirement payments. So hopefully this may have provided a little more insight for you, or maybe you were able to come to your own conclusion after seeing the numbers that I ran here today. Or maybe you've just decided your team debt payoff or team investment, no matter what the numbers were going to say. Let me know what you've decided in the comments or where you stand. And if my experiments shed any kind of extra light to the subject for you. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next Monday.